Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview Noah Kagan, Chief at AppSumo and Sumo.com, all the way from Austin, Texas, talking about all things business and digital marketing. Noah is one of my favourite marketers. In fact, this introduction I do on the show about 3 things is something I first heard and loved on his podcast. So here's 3 things you're going to learn today. 1, some great tips on email marketing, including how to approach content, frequency, and lots more. 2, how Noah organises his week and sets goals. And 3, we talk about the trial and error of digital marketing, finding things that work and where to focus your attention. Let's get into it. Today I'm here with Noah Kagan, who leads a number of amazing businesses in the US. Noah was our international speaker at the very first Interactive Minds Digital Summit back in 2013. And I remember you talking about the marketing buffet back then. Noah and I have kind of stayed in touch over the years, and it is so good to have you on the show. Welcome, Noah.
Thank you for having me. It's good to hear from you. It's been too long.
It has. Now, I know you have some amazing things going on. You've got extraordinary marketing knowledge and experience way back from when you were working at Facebook and Mint as an early employee, and you've gone on to create multiple amazing businesses. There's at least 4 that I know of. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown of what you're up to?
I don't even know. No. It's funny because we have over the years, I think myself, I'm not unique in that I have the entrepreneur disease that I always like the shiny new object. And I think the next new thing will save our business or take us to that next level. And so you end up creating a lot of things.
Yes.
And so we're actually, moving forward, we're refocusing a lot of our business on the things that are working, which is, similar to the marketing buffet. The main businesses that we have now, our number one business is AppSumo.com.
Yep.
So it's tools for entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. So if you're doing any type of business and there's less than 50 people and you need the best tools to help grow, AppSumo.com has been our main thing. And then we've done other projects in business over the years. We launched Sumo.com, which was email marketing capture. So
Yep.
we're one of the largest tools for capturing emails online. Then we have 3 other products. King Sumo, which is viral giveaways. So it's free viral giveaways like, hey, if you want, we're giving away these shoes, go get all your friends and go spam all your friends to join, and then spam all their friends.
Yes.
And then we have SendFox, which is email marketing for content creators. So if you're a blogger, podcaster, Instagram, or YouTuber, it's a email marketing software pretty customized just for those people.
Excellent.
And then the last product we launched last month is called FAM, fully automated marketing. So it's automatic marketing for Shopify store owners. So the idea there is, how do we literally give you a email marketer full time for $20 a month?
Wow.
And so it creates every single one of your emails automatically, does the scheduling, does everything, and you pay $20.
That's amazing. I had actually forgotten to add that one on the list, but I did hear about that recently. I think it was on Product Hunt or something then I saw it.
Yeah, that was, it didn't launch as well as we'd like to, but, and so that's always really an interesting challenge with marketing and business in general is if something doesn't work out right off the gate, do you just give up? How much do you give in? How much do you keep investing?
Yeah. And how long?
Because some of these things, sorry, what's that?
And how long do you keep, plugging away?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Twitter and Uber and all these companies that did go eventually viral and become really popular, Facebook, all these places, their actual initial growth took a few years before it really started piling on. Right? If you actually go look at any of the graphs, Google Trends or Alexa or whatever you want, or user counts, even Slack, all of them, it was like nothing. 3 years later, holy crap, it's taking off.
Yeah.
And so I think there has to be some underlying insights or understanding that you have about what the future's like and what's working to continue doing something. And it goes the same with marketing as well.
Yeah, definitely. And look, these businesses are all various ages, aren't they? I mean, you had AppSumo, that's now 8 or 9 years old, and then the rest of them you've kind of come up with over that period. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder sometimes if you should think of businesses as your children. And it's like, oh, my child is 10, and when it's 18, I need to give it to another man to take over, or another woman. If they want another woman, they could have another woman too.
That's it.
Or do businesses? I think what's been the interesting experience and what we've done well within our company is focus on our main business. And what we need to get better at is let's just focus on that more. And I think with marketing, especially, it's, hey, what works in marketing? Content marketing. Okay, great. Now let's go do a bunch of new stuff. Okay, well, how much content marketing are you still doing? Not as much.
Yes.
And then numbers start, 6 months later, numbers are going down. You're like, why are your numbers going down? It's like, well, you just stopped doing the thing that was working the whole time. And so that's, it was like, okay, Dork, my personal marketing blog. I think that was something I've learned recently, where I had all these things that were working, and then I got distracted with a new shiny thing like a podcast. And I've done that for almost 3 years. And, you're like, oh, well, if I would have just kept the machine going with content marketing that I was doing, the machine would have been, 5-10 times bigger now.
Do you think that if you had kept up with OK Dork as much as you were previously, I know you've got some articles up there, but they're probably not as frequent or maybe in the same format. Do you think that's enough though, or is the audience changing that requires these new, formats and different ways of doing things?
I think about it sometimes. I'm like, do people still read books? Right? Like there's Jeff Bezos said the quote, like, what things don't change.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a younger generation, not even younger. There's just definitely a shift that people that certain attention spans are lowered. But I think people still, at the end of the day, they want help in different things, specifically around marketing.
Yes.
And I think people still read if it's high quality stuff.
Yeah.
That I don't think that'll ever go away. If it's a high quality information, like the medium and how you may share it might change. But at the end of the day, if the content stuff is good, to me, that'll keep working. I think where people get excited for these new channels, and I think there's a lot of marketing growth comes mostly in new channels, like significant marketing growth. But I think there's also a lot of marketing growth in just consistency.
Yes.
So if you have a channel like content that's working, keep working it until it ain't work no more.
Yeah.
And then, maybe potentially explore these other channels.
Yeah, definitely. Now, a lot of these businesses that you've got, or different, are they all businesses or products, whatever you might call them, have an association with email. Is that something that you're particularly passionate about, or was it due to opportunities that you saw?
Yeah, I think we've made some mistakes, and I think we've made some great decisions. Email marketing, has made it's grown at our business. And so what we did though is that we're like, hey, this deal site we've created, AppSumo, we've grown our business to an 8-figure company through email marketing. We've built these tools that we use ourselves. Like, we should just sell this as another way of growing our business, which is, I think, a pretty standard business thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, email's done well for us. Even today, sometimes I get scared about email. I'm like, oh, maybe email's changing and all this stuff. And like, what's the next communication medium? But I don't think email, at least for the next 20 years, I'd bet on that it's not going away as one of the key ways that people are communicating.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's like, how do we enable other businesses to replicate what we've been doing?
Great. And you're right. Email is one of those channels that, whilst it might not be changing that much, it just continues to deliver. Open rates might be going down a little bit, and there's more data stuff to consider, but it's solid, isn't it, in terms of a marketing channel to leverage?
Well, I think email is the only tool that's universal and free.
Yes.
Right. If you look at maybe text messaging, but even that, you can't text internationally unless you're using WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then email is not owned by one person. It's not owned by Facebook. It's kind of owned by Gmail, which is, frankly, that's the part that scares me a bit for how much power they have in the open rates and deliverability.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And then I think
open rates, the only thing I would say for the open rate stuff, I think that's a common thing that most people experience. And what I've observed lately, and what I'm starting to move into my email strategy, is I think it's more about frequency and quality. So what I mean by that is, a lot of these, like, lately I've kind of got more excited about e-commerce businesses than info marketing and marketing content.
Mm-hmm.
These e-commerce businesses are emailing like once to twice a day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit overkill, but I do think if you're emailing weekly to your customers, something they actually want to be reading, and how do you know if they want to read it? If you want to read it yourself. That was something I was talking about with our team this week, where it's like, are we excited to read our own stuff? And then you really need to be like, every Thursday we send something that people want to read, just like a TV show. And because like right now with my personal stuff, for instance, I do it like every 3 weeks or at least once a month, but it's not consistent. And I think your numbers and the audience, if you can train them to look forward to something, I think that will actually grow your open rates and your engagement over time.
Great advice. And with the frequency, daily's too much. You think weekly is kind of a good amount for most businesses and customers?
Well, I think an easy way of reflecting on that is, for everybody listening and yourself, Louisa, like what emails do you get that you always read? Or not even that when you get them, you're excited to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then really
that's
thinking about what that is. So for me, there's a few, right? My fiance, anything about me,
Congratulations,
my money.
by the way.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Anything with my money. So if I get an email like, hey, there's a new dividend, or hey, there's something, an investor update, I'm reading that right away. Yep. And then, if there's business newsletters, like one of my favorite ones obviously is AppSumo.com. I love our tools. I think the tools we promote are awesome. I love Meet Glimpse. I think that's a really strong one. It basically shows you, they have a free newsletter that shows you like, hey, here's new products that are coming out.
Cool. I haven't heard of that one.
So like, it basically shows you like what's becoming popular. And I think that's super interesting. So I'm always like, anytime they send out a new update, I look forward to that one. And so at a high level though, I think for people, just thinking about what do you look forward to and how can you create that within your own content?
Yeah, great tip, because I think often we produce newsletters because there's a date that we're trying to hit and it's got to go out, but taking that content sanity check is a good recommendation.
Well, I think part of it is creating more template. So like, how do you keep tweaking a template of an email that you're like, oh, this is actually really interesting to send it and it's really interesting to create it? Because I think if you're selfishly not excited about it, then probably your audience isn't either.
Yeah.
And I personally, I'm like blown away with all the different people that send email. I'm like, did anyone read this? Because this sucks.
Yeah. No, that's very honest. I think that's true. And tell me about SendFox. I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't kind of Sumo Fox or something like that. That's a fairly new product for you guys in the content creative space for email.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. I think we have our own internal struggles. Every business does, whether you're running a group in a business or you're running your own business. Our success has come, in my opinion, from creating products we need ourselves and then selling that to the audience that we already have access to and we have an advantage in because we have a relationship. We kind of got sidetracked, I would say, in going down this e-commerce world because it's growing so rapidly and it's, a lot of, I think we can use our skills in that new industry, but our customer base is not entirely that.
Yeah.
Our customer base is a lot of freelancers, small business owners, bloggers. It's not necessarily like the Shopify e-commerce world.
Yep.
And so SendFox was coming back to some of our roots, which was, hey, Noah is tired of paying MailChimp and Aweber, $200 to $400 a month.
Yeah.
Why don't we just create an email marketing tool for me that I want to use for OkDork, and let's just charge like the least price we can, which is $50 once forever, and really focus on content creators, which is what I'm excited about. Like I like Instagram, I like YouTube, I like bloggers, I like all these people, and I'd rather serve them. Plus, that's the audience that we already have. Versus, I think in marketing, one of the biggest mistakes everyone's doing, including ourselves at times, is that we don't take advantage of what we already have. We're like, oh, how do I do all this new stuff? It's like, well, how can you leverage what you already have to grow your audience or retain your audience?
Yeah.
And I think that's just a common mistake from a lot of people. And so SendFox was coming back to, we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people on AppSumo that are small business content creators that we have access to. I want this product for myself. Why don't we create this and then promote that? And it's been interesting as we've launched FAM and we've launched SendFox. SendFox has just exploded in terms of usage and demand. And FAM is an amazing product. And I think it's a really valuable solution for e-commerce, but we don't have as much access to those people as easily as we do the content creator audience.
Yeah. And how are you doing email for $50 a month? I mean, is there a cap that you're putting on it for people in terms of database size and how they manage that? Or how do you go about it?
Well, it's just everyone else is ripping people off.
That's simple.
That's what it is at the end of the day. Like if they're the most expensive hosting provider online, you basically have like your HostGator or AWS bill, and then you have this email marketing bill where historically the cost was so high, right? Because you had to have your own server and you had to have port 25 and you had to deal with return path and all these things. But now there's Mailgun and SendGrid and all these like top level services, and the complexity of what they're doing is very simple. Like maybe Klaviyo or some of the more e-commerce email marketing is a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's collect an email and send an email once a month.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing I would say, what's shocking so far about SendFox, and now I think we have almost 2,500 people using it.
Great.
Most people don't send that many emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually been the thing that we're actually trying to optimize on. So how do we afford it is that one, most people don't send emails, which is stupid, but also it means that we don't have any cost. The second thing is that we actively scrape bounces. So we created this software that looks for fake emails so that more and more people can remove all the crappy emails in their email account. And then third, we really focus on how do we help people send only to their active audience that matters.
Great.
So instead of, if you think about it, like have you sent an email recently?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. And then what was the open rate on that?
Oh, I think our open rate's between
Ballpark.
and 20 to 30%.
Exactly. All right. So what does that mean though about how many people didn't open?
Yeah, a lot. 70%.
So that means that, yeah. And that's not unique, right? So if you send like 3 emails, but let's say overall, you're only getting 40% of your 100% opening your emails, but for some reason, you're still sending it to all these people that it's either going to spam or they're deleting you or there's another thing.
Yeah.
And so we've built software that's like, all right, let's just let's test it, but let's ignore the 60%, which also is better for you and your open rates and ultimately also reduces our cost.
Yeah, great. Excellent.
So those are some of the things. I think we'll have other things to sell later in the time, but right now it's highly profitable. And all these other people are just ripping others off. So go check out sendfox.com if you do email marketing.
Definitely. Now, we're talking about some products here that you've got out there at the moment that are, gathering traction. Have you tried some other stuff in the last few years that hasn't worked? And can we talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, everything doesn't work. I think that's the marketing problem is the things that work are boring and the things that are exciting don't work.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
So
I mean,
the more boring, the better. But unfortunately, we all like to think that the new exciting thing. And there is some stuff that happens. So like if you can get on a platform, what I've always believed in marketing is that if you can get a platform early or you can find an opportunity that hasn't been taken advantage of, that's where you're going to have your hyper growth in marketing. So if you could have figured out Reddit a long time ago, or if you could figure out maybe TikTok, it's kind of late. If you could have figured out Quora, maybe if you could have figured out LinkedIn, most of the mega successful companies spammed some group. So Facebook figured out how to spam email lists really early on, and so did LinkedIn, and now that's gone.
Yeah.
And then Slack figured out how to spam your companies. Now that's gone. And then PayPal did eBay. That's an obvious one. Airbnb did Craigslist. Thumbtack figured. I guess they did SEO. But point being is that they took advantage of an opportunity, burned it for everyone else, and now they're ahead of everyone. And so in terms of things that haven't worked, for FAM, we did this huge launch. We had a bunch of partners. We had a bunch of product hunt. We had AppSumo promoted. I promoted it. Sumo.com promoted it. And maybe it wasn't a failure. It was just that our expectations were so high relative to what we thought would happen.
Yep.
And so that's where there was some disappointment. So it actually wasn't horrible, but for the relative to how much we promoted it, it didn't do great. But now it's one of these things that's kind of interesting. I was looking at our numbers today. It's like, oh, wow, the product's actually working. We can start seeing the snowball happening.
Awesome. What would you do differently around that launch and your learnings now that you've had from that?
Yeah, that's the most obvious thing. It didn't fail, I would say, but it definitely disappointed us. I think the biggest thing I would have adjusted for is that there's a few things, but I think number one, we would have built it with a smaller team to start. We would have launched it sooner. So we spent maybe 6-ish months. And then when we did this huge mega launch, I think I would have just done like a soft launch and then gotten some of the customer feedback that we're fixing now.
Yeah.
So that when we do the launch, I think it's funny because I like these soft launches generally, but this one we're like, let's just go big. We spent so much on it.
Yeah.
Whereas SendFox, we had it live for about a year and then we just put it in the AppSumo store quietly. We didn't even really mention it. And it just like instantly started getting purchased.
Fantastic.
I think the other thing is like in FAM, we try to promote it through AppSumo, but we don't really have that audience, even though the product's not where it will be, but the audience isn't there either. So I probably would have picked products within our scope of influence within our customer base.
Yes.
In terms of marketing, I'm trying to think of, the most recent thing related to like podcast world is like trying to grow a podcast. I tried a lot of different marketing activities and almost none of them worked.
Really? But your podcast is doing well now.
It's all relative. I mean, what's interesting with the podcast, I think one of the most fascinating things was it's so amazing. So I came out, did this big launch, giveaways, all this stuff. And I had about 30,000 downloads an episode, 20 to 30, depending on the episode. And at the end of the year, my goal was 100,000 downloads an episode.
Okay. Yep.
And at the end of the year, I was at 20 to 30 and I'm like, man, this is a failure. So in 2018, I basically stopped podcasting. I was like, I'll put them out whenever I feel like it instead of once a week.
Yep.
And so after the once a week, I stopped and I went down to like once, every month or so. My episodes went down to like 10,000 listeners.
Yeah.
And so when I started this year, I was at 10,000 an episode, and I'm like, man, I would have done anything for 30,000. And so I had to focus more on the process and not on the outcome.
Yes.
But I think the podcast world, what I've realized, I think being on other shows and some of the stuff that a lot of people know to do, be on other shows, like go promote it, blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of that is also consistency again, is like if just stick with something or figure out how you can either hire someone else to stick with it if you're not in the mood to stick with it.
Yeah. And if you haven't listened to Noah's podcast, get on it. It's awesome. It's one of my favorites and I'm an avid listener. He's got a couple of different styles of shows that he does and they're super valuable. I think everyone I've listened to I've loved. So totally recommend it. Noah, how often are you doing podcasts now?
I do them once a week.
Yeah. I actually was listening to something the other day that said twice a week is optimal. They actually said 5 times a week is too much, but twice a week is like a game changer for numbers. So
I think it depends if it's your business or not.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
It's a hobby. And for most people, if it's a business, you need to treat it's something I've observed a lot in people who are winning or successful or however you want to say it. They treat things like professionals versus a lot of people treat it as an amateur.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're like, hey, maybe it's twice a week, maybe it's once a week, you have to see what gets you the results, but it is treating it and actually going through those things.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm a once a week as well. So, but fairly new in here. As I said, you're kind of early 20s in the episodes for this one. So, but loving it. It's so much fun and get to have such great conversations.
Well, I mean, for me, it's that. Like, I'm talking with my best friend later today. We're just gonna have like a best friend show, I'm calling it. I'm talking with you. Oh yeah, you know him. You know Yarrow Stark.
Oh yeah,
he's from Down Under.
Yeah,
talking with Yarrow. I haven't talked to Yarrow in years. It's kind of giving me a great excuse to catch up with the guy.
Awesome.
And so yeah, which I'm excited about.
I look forward to hearing it.
I look at it from that more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. And so, have you found anything that's helped you to get your numbers back up now?
I don't look at the numbers.
Really?
I'm serious. Yeah. What's that?
I don't believe that. You're a numbers person.
No. I swear I don't look at the numbers. So that's really helped a lot.
Yep.
So I don't look at the numbers. What else has really helped? Consistency. And then I think promoting it. The one thing I actually had this, I don't think I'm unique with this thought, but I had an interesting kind of like takeaway today or yesterday, just really about like gateway drugs of your customers and your experience.
Yep.
And so what I mean by that is if someone comes to okdork.com and signs up to like join my newsletter and the first listen to a podcast, that's like a big ask versus, hey, join my Facebook group. Hey, follow me on LinkedIn, or hey, here's my 3 favorite articles that you can read whenever you want. Because what I've realized with podcasting specifically is that, well, I've realized a few things, but one, it's really, people have generally a dedicated amount of time that they use it for. Either I have a commute, I do it at the gym, I do it when I'm showering, I do it when I'm cooking, and maybe if I'm traveling somewhere, like an airplane.
Yeah.
But and they generally have that already slotted for who they listen to.
Yes.
And so to take out one of those slots or get them to expand it is a challenge. So I think you have to kind of like gateway drug them, like, oh, come enjoy an article. Oh, come like talk to me a little bit. Oh, let's like be, and then eventually they're like, man, I want to hear more of what this girl or guy has to say. Yeah.
Slowly expand it.
Yes. And so I think I'm going to rejigger my onboarding for like my personal stuff, for the personal marketing stuff towards that.
Yeah, great. And you seem to do a couple of different formats with your podcast. Do you just kind of, is there any structure to that, or do you just do what suits for the person?
Is there any structure to that? Is that funny? No. So my structure is every week on Thursday, and that's what I focus on.
Yep.
And so I focus more on that. What's interesting is there's 3 different types of episodes. There's like me talking, me chatting with someone else, or me doing a live case study of someone's business. We call those Noah's Ark.
Yep.
I think it's always fascinating with marketing and in general, things you do versus things that people like and where those overlap. So the Noah's Ark ones I was like, man, I'd like to do these live case studies because there's nothing else like it. And I think that's a good way of approaching it, which is what is unique that only you can talk about.
Yeah.
And no one else can do a breakdown the way I will. Not to saying that mine's the best. I'm just saying that I'm literally the only Noah that can do Noah's way. And Louisa can do Louisa's way.
Yeah, that's it.
And the listeners can do that. And so I think there's something to consider about like, what can you be number one at or what can you specifically be unique at? And that was something that, because interviews, anyone can go do the interview and, okay, they had a little better questions, but I think the content that's like super unique that people are like talk about to that extent is, I don't know, more appealing and potentially can expand the audience. And I think the second thing that leaning into next year is I've hired someone to help promote it. Because I think it's funny with businesses in general. They do something and they don't really promote it whatsoever. And they're like, I don't know why things aren't growing that much.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how much are you spending time promoting? Oh, and literally like, look at your calendar. How much time is on your calendar promoting it? I don't know, like maybe an hour. Yeah, you're getting it. It's exactly. You're getting the results you're putting in.
So
and
true.
So I've hired someone full time to go and promote the crap out of it. And all these, I'm like, look, here's our targets. Figure out how do you want to promote it. I'm going to, coach you. But let him kind of focus on the numbers and I focus on the process.
Fun. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's what was interesting with the podcast is that AppSumo is our business. And this podcast was not a, let's do this as a way of growing AppSumo. It was just my personal hobby of experimenting with marketing channels and new mediums. And I turned it into an unpaid job that I started resenting. That's why I stopped.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to go back to how do I just enjoy it that I can do it for the next 5 years.
Yes. That's awesome. I love it. And I think your podcast is amazing because you are really great with your questions. You have such a good questioning and interview technique. And I think you're really direct as well. And that's why I love Noah's Arc, because I think you get in there and you ask the businesses the tough questions that, they may or may not have answers for on the spot, but you do it in a constructive way. And then make great suggestions as well. So check out those podcasts, guys. It's something you won't regret.
Louisa, you're like my number one fan. I love you. You're so great.
I am.
I appreciate it.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I feel like I, talk to you all the time. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, we've been talking for years. I think it's, I think what a lot of people think though, which is interesting, including myself, is you put out this content and you're like, this is the best podcast I've ever done. And then you don't really do anything promoting that. And then you're like, I don't know why more people aren't listening.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a function of like, is it out on YouTube in a digestible segment? Is it out on Quora? Is it out on your Twitter? Is it out on your LinkedIn? Is it out on your email list? And I think we put out the stuff and we're almost scared or ashamed to promote things. And especially if you think it's great, you should be.
Yeah.
Like you should be promoting it, not be scared.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's very easy as marketers, I think, to spend time creating. I think that's the fun bit. It's, low risk to a degree, but actually promoting it and then getting those results back is the scary bit. It's the bit that may or may not work and that we might have to come up with new plans for. So it's good to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's much easier to do the creation side. Like I have a very good friend who's working on a book and I'm like, how much and his book is not planning to come out till November 2020. And I was like, are you, right now it's November 2019.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, we need to start the marketing now. Like if you want to work with people, like how are you helping them and building relationships so they're excited to promote you later?
Yeah.
But I think most of us, including myself, do it the day of or the week of or the month of. And that's a lot harder to get those kind of relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. How do you stay motivated in your business after being in it for, I think it's 9 years, is it?
I don't stay motivated.
Love your honesty.
I think about this. I don't always stay motivated. There's days like Monday and Tuesday, I was like, I hate all of this. I kind of want to just do, I don't know, I want to go biking all day. Or just like, I'm reading Gucci Mane, this rapper's book, which it's pretty insane. He's kind of like a hoodlum. It's like a thug. Like all he does is like drugs and like hurt people. But it's a really interesting read. So I was like, I could just stay home and read this more of the time.
Yeah.
So I think motivation, it's easy to be motivated, or not dealing with different motivation if you have money.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost a bad thing. Like if you have money, you're like, well, shit, I have to I have to figure out what I want to do because I don't have to do this. Versus like if I have to pay bills and all those kind of things, that changes the way you look at it. You're like, well, I have to be motivated to just go get work so I can live. I think the way that I've been framing it for now, I'm looking more now and then more into 2020 is like, what do I want to work on for free? And how do I just spend my whole day there? Right. So in an easy way of kind of visualizing it and the way I specifically think about it is like, it's Sunday night. How do I want to spend the whole week? Like, what literally is every day doing? And how am I doing it through those days? And I think that is an easy way to stay motivated. Plus, if you think of what did you work for free on, it's like if you're working for someone on for free and you would just do it anyways, like that's a great way to spend your time.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get paid for it eventually. But for me, that seems to be working. So what I do coming up, and it's almost December, is I delete my entire calendar moving forward.
Wow.
And then I just start thinking like, what the hell do I want to do each week? Like what meetings do I'm like, oh, I really should probably talk to this person, versus we have these meetings that are in our calendar and we just do them anyways. Frankly, none of them really matter.
Yeah.
And most of them you don't have to have all the time, or like an email would have sufficed.
Yes.
But some of them, like I have a few meetings each week where I'm like, man, I can't wait for that one. So it's like, all right, let's just delete everything and then think of, then, all right, let's start fresh.
Great.
And I think that's a way of like really focusing on the things that are frankly the most important, and it's easy to stay motivated.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Do you have a typical day these days, or how do you split your time amongst the different business areas that you've got?
Yeah, right now we're transitioning so I can pull out of some of the day-to-day things. So I look at, my days are pretty structured. Monday is generally like an organization day. So what's the biggest things for the week? What are the stuff I can get organized around? So I look at Monday as organizing for all of my stuff. Number two, Tuesday is kind of like a check-in day with all of the team leads.
Great.
Tuesday is like every person that's leading things in the different groups of the company, I meet with them.
Yeah.
Wednesday is a thinking day, so I have nothing scheduled.
Love it.
The only thing I have scheduled generally on Wednesdays is at 4:00 I go to the sauna with a buddy.
Awesome.
And then I generally, we do sauna time and we talk business. And that's honestly where I think that's a misconception, which is really hard, which is you only have business stuff in the office, which even I get stuck in that world. But the reality is a lot of great business comes walking around in the shower. So we do 4:00 then. Cool. Thursday is kind of my podcast, like stuff like this day, interviews, podcasts, so forth. And then Friday is kind of flex. So whatever's like tomorrow, I'm working on a P&L for 2020. We have a leadership meeting, and then I'm chatting with this YouTuber that has that I like his biking show. So he just talks about road biking. So me and Dylan are having a chat at 4 just about his business.
Cool. I bet Wednesday's your favorite day, is it? Strategy day?
I really do enjoy those days. I think everyone has different things they really enjoy. Like if you love writing every day, like go spend all day writing. If you like meeting people, I do like Wednesdays, but sometimes it's like, oh, what do I really want to do that day? Versus I think sometimes personally, I just fill days in. Like, I should just be busy, because if the calendar doesn't have a bunch of crap in it, then it's not a great day. I think what I'm still working on at 37, and we're probably working at 47 is, how do you measure what makes a great day versus an okay day? Yeah. And then really trying to think about what those days look like, right? For each person. Like, is it meeting someone? Was it a sale? Was it something you created? Was it some type of like help that you did? And I probably need to get even better about how more of my days are like that.
Yeah. I do love how deliberate you are with your days, though. I think that's something that we can all take something away from. I actually just recently, just like yesterday, wrote up pretty much what you just said. Like Monday is an organizing day. Tuesday I'm going to do meetings. And it was, I think it's liberating to have those kind of plans and to know when you can actually do your deep work versus, when you don't need to do your deep work. So I think it's nice to have that structure, at least for those structured people like us.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm as strict as that all the time, but I think I want to get better at even blocking out like the thing I'd like to probably do is just like, where's more time just for creation? I think that's where I get a lot of satisfaction. Like if I'm creating a podcast, if I'm creating content, if I'm creating software, personally that I get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
Cool. Now, I've got another question which kind of is around organising and goals and planning. When you were at the Digital Summit back in 2013, you shared your dashboard. I think live on stage we did this, and you had a number from memory that you focused on in the business and in your marketing. Do you still do that kind of stuff?
We still do.
Tell us more.
We have two businesses, right? Or two major things we're focusing on, which is AppSumo and then FAM. And each of those have a very clear goal. And there's only one number that everything is focused around. AppSumo is a revenue number, and FAM was a revenue generated for customer number. So for FAM, it was to make $1 million for our customers. Great.
Awesome. And how do you focus on those?
Yeah, we still do that today where I learned it at Facebook. It seemed to work well for them. So I think it can work pretty well for us.
What was Facebook's number around? Was that users?
We didn't have a direct number, but Mark's only thing that we ever talked about was users. Yeah. It was like how to get more people using Facebook. That was the only thing to focus on. Yeah.
And do you have that kind of dashboard format, or how do you kind of get the team on board with that focus?
So Chad, my business partner, creates a dashboard each year. So this year it was like a tiki bar.
Cool.
So every sale that happens for the customer, the tiki guy makes a drink and the dashboard goes up. And then I don't know if AppSumo has like a software dashboard they could build, but basically every week as a team, both teams like goes over their number. So there's not a week that we're not knowing if like how we're doing against it.
Yeah. And it's important to have that. I mean, I talk to a lot of marketers, and it's interesting the variety of marketers who have goals versus those who don't, and have KPIs set for their direction and focus as well. What are your thoughts on this?
I think there's a few different thoughts. I think what happens when numbers start looking bad, that's kind of the tough part.
Yeah.
Right? Where, my revenue is not where I thought it would be. And so I think there's two kind of pieces of that, which is one, are you looking at the right KPIs that matter? Right. So if your goal is a revenue number, are you looking at the right KPIs that can impact that? And more importantly, the way that we do it, and we still do it for the business, is you've probably heard me talk about it, is the proactive dashboard. And so proactive dashboard is more, what is things under your control? Because I think a lot of times we're like, I hope my Google traffic goes up. It's like, well, how much can you control that?
Yeah.
You can't. But you can control how much content you output. You can control how many people you email to get links. You can control how many YouTube things you put up. You can control how much ad spending you do. You can control how many emails you send. You control, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think you have to figure out which things you can control, which end up impacting positively your KPIs and ultimately your goal.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's really important. We can't set goals for stuff that's out of our control because we're only going to end in disappointment. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. How do you manage your calendar, your time, your tasks? Do you have any kind of tips for people on methods or ways that you do that?
How do I manage my tasks? I think probably one of the biggest things is having an assistant. And I know when people, maybe nowadays it's not as wild, but it's honestly a lot more affordable than people think. And I have people at AppSumo and Sumo that I'm just like, yeah, I could just do it myself. And I'm just it's $20 an hour for an assistant. You can use like timeetcetera.com. That's a service my brother uses and recommends. I have it dedicated, but it's $6 an hour. And if you think about it, if you're hourly, not even if your time is worth that much more, it just frees you up to focus on high value things. And I think having someone else focuses you, be like, well, what's more valuable for me to do? I think the biggest thing in terms for me, I'd say at the end of the day is one thing, which is I set my goals at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
And I just set my goals at the beginning of the year. And I think that's probably the biggest thing in terms of productivity. So I don't care if you use paper or electronics, if you have assistants, don't have assistants, hire people, software, don't. But I think if you have a clear goal and I'll walk you through an example of that. So I look at my goal for the year every single day. And so one of our goals was for SendFox to get 1,000 customers.
Yep.
And so every single day I'm looking at that goal because it's part of my daily routine in the morning. And then every week we're going over, like for that one, it was really easy to do. So that one wasn't a challenge, but it's like every week you should be looking, am I on track for my goal? And what are the biggest things I can do to make sure I'm on track for this goal?
Yeah.
Sumo Mail, which became FAM, is probably a better example where it's like, we wanted to make $1 million for our customers. So like every week we're like, are we on track for it? And we modeled out what it's supposed to look like. And every week we can be like, we're on track or not. Same with AppSumo and their revenue goal. And so every week you should just be like, what are the biggest levers I can do towards that? And if you're doing other things, frankly, then you're doing the wrong stuff or you set the wrong goal.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely important to keep in mind that we can set the wrong goals and that it's okay to reset them if we realize that.
I think that's a really hard thing for people. And part of it is either resetting it too soon or not sitting with it longer.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Finding that balance is the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
And same with any marketing. At what point do you pivot and change the plan versus sticking with what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think that's a tough challenge. I mean, what I like to do is monthly sprints around marketing. So 80% of marketing should be around what's working. Like put out your tweets, put out this, and then once a month or 20% of the time, you can try new stuff and then see how that performs towards your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good balance. I've heard of kind of 10 to 20% seems to be the sweet spot for the trial and error stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's hard though, because even for ourselves, I've noticed it's really hard to give up things.
Yeah, it is.
You're like, oh, well, it's kind of working. Like we did Instagram on Sumo for a good amount of time. And it's like, well, it's kind of working. We should keep doing it. It's like, well, how much is that costing? It's only $200 a month. But those things start adding up and pricking at you. And it's like, well, could that person be doing something else that's even more valuable? And can we save that money to do something that's even a better use of that money?
Yeah. And it's hard to move off channels when, they're fairly hot. You feel that something might change and it might get better.
I think you can kind of tell when something's working, or you can do it. We have one of our Sumoisms is called test and invest.
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear if you try Reddit ads or if you do a blog post or you do something, even if it's not a home run, you have some indication that it's something you could put more into.
Yeah.
I think that's really what you're trying to get at. So for me, for instance, on my personal stuff, I've noticed LinkedIn is really starting to get responses more so than Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So I'm like, all right, well, I haven't been really putting much effort into it. What if we put all of our effort into this one thing to grow our audience? And it's like, all right, let's go do that more.
Yeah.
But I didn't go all in right away. I was doing the other ones that were working for some period of time.
Yeah. And what kind of stuff are you doing on LinkedIn now?
I'm trying to push people to follow more. They have a newsletter feature they just launched, kind of hiddenly.
Okay.
So you can get people. You actually have a new LinkedIn newsletter. It's definitely more like the Sumo and AppSumo type of customers we want, more so than it's also I don't want to be posting pictures all day. It's just not my jam.
Yeah.
But I think there's things with that. I think Facebook groups is a really interesting marketing channel. I think at the end of the day, there is a balance. So one is I use these things, or I look at these things as how do I get more audience into our stuff, not as these are my destinations where I want my audience to live.
That's right.
I want them to be either on basically at the end of the day, I want them to be in our email list.
Yeah.
Or using our software.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you, how often do you make that push to those different groups or audiences?
Not often enough. That's a great point.
Yeah. Is there a kind of recommendation you'd have around that? Percentage
more
of content?
Than you think.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. So if I went and tweeted, hey, go join my newsletter, I would get more signups today than I ever have. And I don't do that at all because I just have other things going on. And so I think what's missing from my personal stuff or even from the business is you kind of think it's so funny. You think everyone's already heard your stuff.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you're like, oh my God, not everyone's heard it. And that's because all these other channels, frankly, they're incentivized to get you to pay. They don't want you to talk for free.
Yeah.
And so you do have to keep posting things. Like on my Twitter, I have 60,000 followers. I post something on a good thing. Now I get 50 clicks.
Wow.
On a good thing.
Yeah.
And so it's because they're reducing me because they want me to pay to talk to my own people, which is kind of like extortion.
It is a bit, isn't it?
It is. It's crazy. Everyone's so excited about my business partner was joking with me yesterday. He had a really interesting point. Everyone's so excited about remarketing. So I'm paying a bunch of money to just talk to my own customers.
Yeah.
I know they're new and some of them are just browsing and they're not brand new to you. But a lot of times I'm like, these are people that already have these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's right. And it's important to segregate those audiences and retargeting. Hey, or it can cost so much money to get, nothing more than you've already got.
Yeah. It's like, I'm paying to talk to my own fiance. So I'm just looking at my stats. Yeah. I have 69 clicks on a popular thing. It's just it's ludicrous how ineffective some of these channels are, but how often you actually probably need to keep posting stuff to start making it consistent that people add up and doing the things that you want them to do.
And actually see the posts. In Australia, Twitter's really died off for us.
Really?
Yeah, we're not, we used to use it at events all the time to, almost do a rolling stream of what we're seeing and hearing at the events. And we're lucky to get one person engaged with us at events now. So we've dropped it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like actually in America, I feel like Twitter's getting more popular.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why we're experiencing such a different sway than what we're seeing overseas.
I don't know. I mean, Twitter, in conversation and just usage, I'm like, because I don't want to be checking Instagram. I feel like it's a waste of time. So I don't do that. So I'm just like, well, I want to have news and see interesting things. So I'm like, I'll just go to Twitter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We used to put up, as we have speakers at our events, we'd put up the Twitter handles. And so we often go and search for them. And most people, and they're marketers, we go to Twitter and it's last update 2017 or 2016. So people just aren't putting stuff on there. They're not checking it. They're not using it at events, which I think events are, a bit of a sign, really. I mean, that platform was great for feeds from events for us and for audiences. So, yeah, it's weird. I'll be watching that space with interest to see kind of what happens from here.
Well, I think what's been wild for Twitter is this is where first mover advantage did help, right? I got on there, I was on there, I don't know, pretty early. And so it helped me build a larger audience. But then at the same time, you have to remember who's the landlord.
Yeah.
And eventually they come and collect rent.
Yeah.
So you need to be building your own houses.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Are you getting into TikTok?
No, I don't. Here's the thing. I think, no, I'm not. And do you want a reason, or I can just say I'm not?
Yeah, tell us why. I could picture you on TikTok.
Look, there's numerous ways that I can waste my time in. So right now, attention is a currency in the internet.
Yeah.
So whoever gets your attention is how you're paying your bills. And I don't want to give my money to TikTok. But I think as a marketer and any business owner, you must go try new channels out. You have to. Otherwise, you're going to get outdated. And I think that's how people lose. They're like, well, I don't want to try out this new stuff because I'm used to email marketing. That's how I've always done it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that email marketing will go away, but I think you have to be open-minded. I did use TikTok. I get why it's popular. I don't want to have an app that literally is optimized to waste my time. That's literally what it's for.
Yeah.
I think Instagram, same thing. Like I unsubscribed from everyone on Instagram or unfollowed, whatever, except like my fiance and a few best friends.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to like spend my whole day looking at yachts and food and like gym photos.
Yeah. And it's about where your audience is, isn't it? And I'm imagining that those platforms in particular are particularly TikTok, is not your clientele.
Well, there is, the argument someone else would say was like, oh, on Instagram, there's all these like everyone's using Instagram. So your audience is on there too. It's like, yeah. And it's not that I shouldn't do that. I think you should also figure out your audiences other places too. Like marketing is always the same thing, who and where. And then you have to have a great what/why of what they wanted, but it's the who and where. And so a lot of the audience that I care about is on LinkedIn. And so to me, writing things or putting images and stuff like that on LinkedIn is much more enjoyable, frankly, than like putting up fake photos of me on a car or bike or, there's me. So I just don't want to spend my time in that.
Yeah,
I just find
totally.
they're just like time sucks.
Yes, definitely. I agree. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Noah. It's been an absolute joy to have a chat, catch up and hear what you're up to.
Louisa, you're my favorite.
Thank you. How can people find you? Where can they go? I know we've mentioned a couple of places, but let's lay them out.
Yeah. So if you want to hear more marketing shenanigans and things I'm up to, it's okdork.com. It's a free newsletter. And then the podcast I do weekly is Noah Kagan Presents. And then if you're interested in tools to grow your online business, go sign up for appsumo.com.
Yes.
Just free newsletter. And then we have other stuff, but those are the two that I would focus on.
Awesome. Thanks again, Noah. We will let you know when this is out. And thanks for being on the show.
Louisa, you're the best.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please remember to subscribe. My recommended action item from today's show is to look at how much time you are spending on the items that you want growth on and to question if it's enough. Please join me in the Interactive Minds Facebook group, where hundreds of marketers have discussions, answer questions, and I share the latest news I'm seeing in the industry. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. See you next week.